Hi, everybody. This is Martha Creek. This is a mentoring moment with Martha Creek. Now, not to be confused by, I'm still in my own mentoring program, so I'm a student as much as I'm anything else. And this is offered because I get to hang out with the coolest people on the planet. And I live and exist almost entirely with people that have a purpose to their life and that live with purpose in their lives. So that's what these moments are offered for, and to shed light on your own purpose and for you to be about whatever it is you're about, and to know that we're out here inspiring you also. So we're co-inspiring to lift you up in whatever that is. So there's 100 plus videos, podcast, everything at the website, marthacreek.com. That's how you contact me. And that's how you can just use any of that you can for your own education, for you to grow from, grow through, go through, teach it, preach it, live from it, write it, publicize it, do anything you can with it to get empowered teachings to the whole of the planet. So I have a dear friend, colleague, sister soul, Reverend Mindy Tucker here with me today. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this, honey.
Yippee for both of us and for the world.
Yeah, thank you, honey. So you're serving currently, honey. So you've served 2 or 3 different ministries through a calling to ministry. I'd like to hear a little bit about like what your journey to that was. And you're currently co-ministering. And I have served as co-minister, and I still take quite a bit of heat for that. And even in the day when we said we're going to co-minister, people thought we were nuts and basically snickered behind our backs to watch how it would fail in many ways. Now, nobody's going to admit that that's what they were thinking. And you are consciously co-creating through a co-ministry. So I eventually want us to talk about that today too. So let's talk what you're about, honey, what your journey's been about, what you believe your ministering is about, your ministry is about, and let's put it out there to shed a little light on what somebody else may relate to then in determining their own purpose and being on purpose.
Well, the modified short story, long story, because give a minister a microphone and they're going to talk forever because we all have something to say. And being a minister is part of answering that call, that inner urge to serve humanity. And for me, it's about bringing the unity message to more people's attention so that they can coalesce these spiritual ideas and transform their own lives. My first call to ministry, I was 14 years old, sitting in the 3rd row at Unity Church of Hawaii on the fountain side of the church. If you've ever been there, diamond heads on one side and the fountains on the other. I was sitting there 3rd row, fountain side of the church. Stan Hampson was the minister. And for the first time, everything that I had thought about growing up to be, and I was never one of those kids who said, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a stockbroker, I'm going to be like my dad and go into sales. I never had an articulation, but it was like I knew I was going to have a desk. I knew I was going to be with people. And it was click, click, click. I looked at Stan Hampson and I said, that's what I'm going to be when I grew up. And my mother said, oh, no, dear. Ladies don't do that, especially ladies in our family. In my 14-year-old way, I swallowed my mother's words. And it wasn't until I was 44 years old, taking SEE classes with my then current senior minister, and I felt that urge and that calling to be a licensed Unity teacher because I already had a minister. Who needs more than one minister? So I had that urge, that calling. And as I began to fill out the paperwork with that minister, the question was, what is it that calls you, or why is it? And I was like, well, because since I was 14 years old, sitting in the 3rd row on the fountain side of the church. So it was a reawakening of something that had been dormant in me for a long time, and how beautifully life works out so that I had skills that you don't think ministers need. I was married to a man who was in building maintenance. He supervised 3 million square feet of office space. I know so much about building maintenance and HVAC systems. Who would think that that would be a necessary component of a skill set for a minister? I have an MBA. Who knew that that's a spiritual skill set that's required for a minister? Because administration is part of what we do.
Yeah.
But
Well,
in answering that call at the age of 44, I went on the fast track for field licensing. I had 2 children who were still in high school, and I did not want to leave Hawaii, and I did not want to live in Missouri. My father had grown up in Kansas, and for him, there was nothing worse than the Midwest in the winter. So I had my little thoughts on, and I went through the field program, and I'm very grateful for the field program to be able to be a leader, be a minister in my own spiritual community, and learn on the job with the support of the mentorship of the field program.
yeah. So I want to stop. Somebody busted me yesterday on lingo. Lingo bingo, something like that. It was very playful, very fun. So now I'm hyper aware of it, and that is to use terminology that people may not understand that are listening to this video, for example, or this podcast, like SEE.
Ah,
We know it well. We've grown up in it. We've enrolled in it. We've taught it. We still teach it. We're still at it today. So spiritual education enrichment.
yes.
SEC. So that is a term used in the courses of Unity Worldwide Ministries and Unity's Worldwide Spiritual Institute and Urban School Studies and field licensing. And these are paths to ordination through Unity's Worldwide Ministries' current platforms. So that's what SEE means.
And actually, the SEE program is all about personal development and personal transformation. So when we take these spiritual education and enrichment classes, we're looking at our own lives and awakening to our own spiritual journey.
Yeah, so it's so important. Then you don't have to have a calling to be a minister or any desire to be a minister to use this coursework and these trainings and these teachings that are, as Reverend Mindy has put forth here, to awaken us, to bring our own spiritual realizations, emotional breakthroughs and realizations. So it's a tried and true course for that. And you're welcome to join in any way you want to, and it all can be found through unity.org. Also, LUT, that's Licensed Unity Teacher. And that's what you'll end up with if you take enough courses. That's what you'll end up with if you take enough classes. So you may not, and I know people that have an LUT today that didn't set out to have an LUT today because they set out for self-realization and enlightenment studies. They wanted to be more informed, educated, and more exploratory and in the discovery and find mode of their own divinity. And then I say when I tease about the number of ordinations I have, how in the world are you ordained so many times? And it's like, because I kept studying. So if you keep studying, whoever's listening to this, you'll end up with some letters with your name. Now, you may not care about the letters or want the letters or what order they come in before or after your name. And it's also an indicator of the path and how the path has served us and what paths we've run on, what tracks we've run on in our own development. And we've in no way here claiming that it is the way. So it is a way. So whatever your way is. So you may not even resonate with Christianity or teachings of Jesus. It's like, then whatever you resonate with, whatever book it is, the Torah, the Talmud, the Upanishads, the Tao, whatever it is, find your path, find a way to teach, to educate, to learn, to develop, to consult, to flesh out, to awaken, to realize yourself, and Godspeed to you, whatever that path is. This path is offered as an indicator of a way, not the way. So let's go back then to your trek through ministry then. And serving in ministry. So serving as on staff, serving in various ministries, serving in 2 or 3 regions of the United States, off the Pacific coast, down in Hawaii, and now serving a ministry in Wilmington, North Carolina. And let's go into then co-ministering and what you see the primary difference of being the senior minister is, or the CEO, or the spiritual head of an organization is in correlation to co-ministering.
Well, let's just back up to what I said when I was in discovery about all the different skill sets that are required to be a fully capable senior minister. You either have to hire additional staff to supplement anything that you're not particularly good at. But if you have co-ministry, you can take your skill set with another person's skill set. It's like way back when we learned math and there were these two circles and in the middle they overlapped, and it's the overlap. You're going to have the call to ministry. You're going to have the love of people. But for me, I'm not so techie. So Nikki Golden, my co-minister and partner in life, she's very techie. And she works really well. She has a stronger foundation in education than I do. So she takes on the youth ministry. She takes on adult education. I'm more administrative. I look at the facilities. And so I take on that. And that balances out. It helps the community get a better product in leadership to have co-ministry. The other benefit, and maybe even more exciting, is there's synergy. I have so many ideas. I have an abundance of ideas. I have an abundance of experience. I've been in ministry 12 years. I've learned a few things, been around the block a few times. But having a partnership that's based on co-ministry, then we actually have synergy in our decision making. So I'll say, I was thinking we should do this A, B, C. And then Nikki will say, well, I like the A and I like the C, not so much the B. What if we did D, E, F? And pretty soon we're spun up in a much bigger, broader approach to being visionary, to being creative, to being innovative, and to making those regular governance type of decisions that's required of ministry. Our bylaws say the minister is responsible for the complete functioning of this ministry.
Yeah, well, you just described beautifully, honey, what true collaboration actually is.
Yes.
So the way I received it and have used it for years to attempt to convey the power of collaboration, which is 1 + 1 = 100.
Yes.
So I have an idea that's sound, tried, true, brilliant in the idea. Then there's another idea that's tried, true, sound, brilliant in its that. And with some working it out, a little massaging, well, wait a minute, let's drop that. What if we just went with the B? Then an idea beyond what either one of us had before is born.
Yes.
There is a better idea yet than either one of us had independently when we can dip into, pause into, breathe into a synchronicity, a serendipity, a collaboration, and a higher mind than either one of us had. So that's a brilliant, beautiful way to put it. It's also exciting because then it's more organic. So it's not just going to be the ideas I have and have massaged and fleshed out, but I've got input here. I've got somebody painting it. I've got somebody putting color and life and other potential in it that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So speak then about where the boogers are, honey, where the bristles are in co-ministering.
Well, the bristles in our co-ministry, and we're now in the 3rd year of living into it, were really from my transition from being the senior to being the co. And they are sneaky little bristles. For instance, somebody would come and ask me if this community room was available for a program. And I would know the answer to that question because that's our job. But it was Nikki's job to make those decisions and make that communication. But in order to save time with that person, I could just answer the question right there. Let me tell you, that got me in trouble a few times. And when I say trouble, it's not like I was punished, but it was an opportunity to recommit to the agreements that we set up to support ourselves. Because when we broke those agreements, not only are we not supporting ourselves, we're not supporting the community in the highest and best, but we're also impinging on the trust that we absolutely have to have between us.
Absolutely, honey. And it's a basic example of like I'm out of my lane. And
Yes,
I know I'm out of my lane. So then if I'm operating out of my lane and aware that I'm operating out of my lane, that I'm out of integrity with myself.
right.
Then I'm not setting myself up for success or our teamwork and co-ministering up for success or the outcome, the scheduling or the due process of scheduling or communication flows, workflows, or anything else. So that sounds so trite. Is that the word?
Trivial?
Trivial, contrived. It sounds so petty. And it's like, it's not at all that because
Oh, no, it's fundamental.
it is fundamental. So this applies whether you're in ministry or ever think you'll be in ministry or even have a crack of an open in your mind to consider co-ministering or not. This applies for your personal relationships, your sibling relationships, your marital
Oh, yeah.
relationships. So there's nothing that's being presented here today that's that applies only to co-ministering. So hopefully it's life lessons that you can hear it as life lessons. How can I do a better job there in all the ways that I'm living this out and wanting to produce integrity in the space, in the relationship, and trust and competency and yeah.
And all those wonderful things. I would say not so much a bristle, but a very important thought and agreement or something about co-ministry to keep in mind is sometimes it takes longer, because if you ask me a question and it needs to be a joint answer, I don't have the capacity or the integrity to answer you in that moment. That I truly do need to consult with the co-minister so that we speak with a unified voice.
Yeah.
If we have made a decision knowing that the other person's probably going to be okay with it, like we've made that, we have a track record for that kind of decision making, I need to take the time to go back to Nikki and say, heads up, I made this agreement. I don't feel out of integrity because we have a track record for making that same kind of decision, but you need to know that I made it. Mm-hmm. So there's a debrief at the end of the day of what we've done.
Absolutely. And it sounds like a basic do unto others philosophy of life, honey, like something that's very powerful in that. Yeah. And go back to what you said first, that it takes longer. So that's the basis of all collaboration, which is why I even caution people that I'll even say I'm a collaboration addict, that I am really open to collaboration, and there's simply not time for it. In some cases, there's actually not time. If a car's about to run over me, you don't need to collaborate. You need to like take your hand and push me on out of the way of that car. You need to you need to use force. There's times where there's no space for collaboration. So then I tease about, I've got a few friends that go, oh my God, this is our collaboration addiction here, where who could I run this by, or who could like lift this up, or who could shed a light in on this, or who could give me a kind of fill in the gaps, who could show me the nose on my face I haven't seen yet. So it's one thing to say I'm going to be about that, and another thing entirely to say I accept that there won't always be collaboration, that there's going to be times where it's not practical, sensible, time constraints, other constraints, and I'm going to do it. And I don't have to do it, though, without disclosure, without conversation, without debriefing, without circling back and saying, I realize I was really over here on this yellow line today. This. And while I prefer the other, I'm over here. And to let that be part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What would you say to somebody considering co-ministering, like your 3 best practices, or be sure this is in place before you venture off into this arena? How would
I
you?
would say be very mindful of the partner that you are entering co-ministry with. What kind of relationship do you have with them? What kind of track record do you have with that person? Do you see the world? I'm going back to concentric circles. Do you see the world through the same eyes on your bottom line? Sort of like when you're in a relationship and you're entering a relationship and you're making agreements and you're saying, look, if you ever cheat on me, that's non-negotiable. We're
Mhm.
going to break up.
Mhm.
So to have what's non-negotiable in your co-ministry relationship when you go in, if you make decisions without me, if you work with the board without me, if you triangulate without me, if you do whatever without me, those are non-negotiables. So really know who you're considering and identify those non-negotiables.
Yeah. So that's,
Uh,
yeah, well, to be clarify them, because I'm relating here as I listen to you, Mindy, that there's people that this would not have occurred to because they believe I know her, we've never hit or scratched or shot each other yet. It's bound to be okay, without ever sitting and saying, this has got to, this takes another depth of discovery here. What will get me going? What are some of the boundaries I have? What are my non-negotiables?
what
And
kind of risk taker are you? Are you risk adverse? Are you conflict averse? Do you have a clear and direct communication style? Or are you one of the people who will talk around an issue to be very indirect? Some of those Laban moves, just very indirect. I can be more I can be so tactful that nobody ever knows what I'm talking about.
yes, exactly. Yeah,
And that doesn't work in co-ministry. I have to be willing to be clear and direct.
yeah. Well, I'd say it doesn't work in ministry over time. It's not sustainable in ministry, and certainly in co-ministry. What do you think the flavor? What have we inherited in the way of co-ministry? What do you think the general culture or stigmas or taboos are around co-ministering, the idea of co-ministering?
I think in unity in particular, co-ministry is between husband and wife. We've inherited that model that the people are married, and so they already have an established track record for a relationship. Nikki and I are breaking that model. We're not married, but we are in life partners. I think that overall, when I did the research, when we originally made the proposal to Unity of Wilmington, that there are more, it's a growing trend in ministry. It reduces minister fatigue. It reduces minister burnout. It opens the door for so much more creativity. So in the greater church industry, most co-ministers are not married, that they are people who have identified compatible skill sets, who share a similar purpose and mission, and are committed to the extra time it takes to get into that relationship. Because honestly, the upfront work is critical, but once it's rolling, the synergy, the creativity, the reporting that comes out about co-ministry in the church industry it's the new frontier.
Hmm. Yeah,
It really is the new frontier.
wonderful to hear, honey. And I hope whoever's listening, so whether whatever role you're in, you may never set foot in a church. You may be on church online, where the majority of people are currently, that you also begin to apply this to business or business practices or gardening or whatever you're doing in your neighborhood. The synergy of having support, an offset of our own, a bolstering up of our own skills, that there's nobody alive, me or anybody else, that's not without limitations. to our skills, our intellect, our thinking, our belief system, our capacities, our gifts. That I just don't have the gifts that you have. You don't have the gifts that I have. And that we're looking then, which is such a beautiful way for you to put it, that it's a chance to have an uplift of gifts, that you now have somebody in these positions, whatever the position is, that you've got double or triple, quadruple, 1+1=100 potential of what gifts and talents, skills, abilities, functioning, that's all affected as a result of that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if you wanted to get some message, Mindy, to the world, to people, anybody listening, like what would you want them to know?
You are a beloved expression of God. You are here for a holy purpose with your unique skills and your beautiful self, and that you are where you are by divine appointment. So wherever you are, you're in the right place at the right time, right now.
Mm.
Everything you've ever experienced in your life has brought you to where you are. And you have the power and the potential to have a bigger, beautiful, more peaceful, more joyful, more creative life.
Yeah. Thank you, honey. Beautiful to hear and to remember. So
And to remember, and that's really what community is all about, is we're here to remind each other.
so too, honey, because that would be next then, like as you look at what's going on in the trends of that. So then maybe that'll be for our next podcast or our next conversation, to look at
Anytime.
what some of the trends are. So thank you, honey. So put here on the record, on the recording, how people can contact you if you want that. So the website, the ministry website, or your email, or whatever you want to put forth here, do that now.
My email address is revmindytucker@gmail.com. I am currently serving Unity of Wilmington, unitywill.com. That's UNITYWIL.com. I have a Facebook page, Mindy Tucker. I look forward to hearing from you and connecting with you and celebrating right where you are on your journey. Thank you, Martha.
Yeah, you're so welcome, honey. Thank you too. So to all you listeners, you've been reminded again today. So don't forget to remember what is true, whatever is true for you, and to live through that. So we know that you have purpose. We know it is divine, and we absolutely lift you up in that, whatever it is to you and for you. MarthaCreek.com to contact me anywhere in the world that I can serve you. Classes, speaking, podcast, all of it there. Just have any part of it that you want to, until we meet again. Bye for now. MarthaCreek.com if I can support you. Blessings.